Oh, I see. It looks like you're live.
Okay, we are live and I have Julia here with me and we're painting. So come join us.
Yay. And I'm going to share it on Facebook so people can see that we're live painting. What are you going to paint, Aya?
I'm going to try to paint another picture that I got from The Sound of Magic. And we'll see how that works for me.
That's very cool. I'm excited to see how it should turn out. I'm still working on the same drawing, which I'm probably going to be doing for a while because I want to finish it in its entirety before I move on to the next thing.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
That's just how I am because look, I put it off for a really long time and I'm kind of having fun with it. It's just like I kept meaning to make time to work on it. It just didn't happen.
By the way, I had some good news about this book of mine.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so this is in case there's a box. And I found out it's being marketed by Walmart online.
That's very cool, Aya. That's awesome.
Yeah. In fact, when they saw that I was looking at it, you know what they did? They emailed me and they said, hey, we see you were looking at that. Why don't you buy it?
That's funny. That's so cool. So my question is, I guess if somebody has like that Walmart app, they could order it, right?
Yes, they could order it and they could get it within a week.
That is very cool. I think I mean, I have it. I just need to go look for I really like that one. It's the bilingual one. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, it is a good way if you are trying to learn Hebrew and you want to read something that's not too deep or too demanding. This is a children's book, so it should be easy to read.
Very true. I totally agree. I mean, I listened to you read it before, and it's just really beautiful. Like I'm certainly not a linguist, but I love to hear people speak Hebrew and Arabic and Turkish. I'm very interested in Middle Eastern languages, although I don't claim to speak any of them. I just have an interest in it. It's very beautiful.
Well, you know what interest I actually have? Sorry, lots of allergies this time of year. But I've always wanted to see how languages are related to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm watching Korean television, that kind of old ambition has resurfaced.
That's very neat. Well, I know I mean, there are words that are similar between Hebrew and Arabic. That I do know. There was somebody that said that Korean and Turkish had some distant relatability, but I guess that's considered like not substantiated maybe, but I had read that.
Well, it used to be well accepted and now it's not.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I feel like this is what I will say. I'm not a Turkish speaker and I'm not a Korean speaker, but I have seen similarities in the language, like the way it's structured. So,
yeah.
And we do know that, I mean, modern Turkish people in Western Turkey, yes, they have a lot of Southern European roots. But when you go farther Eastern Turkey, and even some people in Western Turkey, they have Central Asian roots because they were descended from the Urguz people, which were Central Asian people. So I don't see why the Altaic language theory is completely dismissed. I don't think it completely should be. But,
Altaic.
Yeah, Altaic.
Yeah, yeah. I still find that a very attractive theory.
I mean, there has to be something to it. But you know what I also think is maybe time will show that maybe it was correct, like.
Yeah. So, right now I'm watching a Korean show. It's a romance. I guess I'm just a sucker for romance. And it's not the Sound of Magic one because I finished that one a while back. But
Hmm.
so this one is called Because This Is My First Life.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because it brings up that issue of, do you only live once?
Oh, the reincarnation issue. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a show about reincarnation. It just somehow makes me think of that when I think of the title. And also, there's a guy who is not the main character and is not that important, but he works at the YOLO Cafe, and of course, YOLO stands for
Oh, you only live once.
So the title of the show is Because This Is My First Life, and eventually she ends up working at the YOLO Cafe. Um, but it's a romance in which the main character signs a contract with her landlord. They marry for convenience.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He has an apartment, but he has a giant mortgage on this apartment.
Hmm.
In Korea, they own their apartments, but they don't have houses, but it's like a house with a mortgage.
That's
And
kind of
yeah,
it's kind of like the bigger cities like New York, more people own their apartments because it's population density. Like that's the reason I would say, right?
yes, that is the reason. So costs in Seoul are exorbitant. And as a result of that, a man living alone, even though he's got a good job, he's kind of a computer programming whiz, and he works for a company that has a dating app, of course.
Gosh.
And he's high up in the company, but he can't afford to pay for his apartment without having like a roommate.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because they all have these highfalutin jobs that you would think if I had a job like that, I wouldn't have any problems.
Yeah, you would think so, but it kind of sounds like an urban, high population. It sounds similar to like New York or LA, where these people like, oh, okay, like they have a really well-paying job, but it doesn't matter because they have to have like four roommates to share like a very small apartment or house.
Right. And this guy is he's kind of he comes off as kind of autistic, but maybe he's not. Maybe I'm misreading it. So he's very meticulous, very clean. He has a cat.
Oh,
He
fine.
he wants his cat to be well taken care of,
Oh,
but he doesn't care for people that much.
people like people. Interesting.
People are messy.
So if you're a cat owner, like cat owners tend to be like that. They're very like I mean, not all cat owners. I'm not saying I was completely like that, but I know a lot of people who own cats, they always say, I only like my cat. Whereas like, okay, like a dog owner, I'm not trying to stereotype, but a lot of people I know that are dog owners, they're more extroverted, like they take their dogs out for walks, they like to meet people that have dogs, whereas like a cat owner kind of like to stay home more.
Yeah. Well, so he wanted to make sure that his cat was well taken care of. Sometimes he had to work overtime. So part of the contract was the person who lived in the apartment with him would have to take care of the cat on the days when he couldn't, get home on time to take care of the cat. And anyway, at first she started living with him without knowing, they didn't know that they weren't of the same sex, they never met.
Oh, okay. That's
So she
interesting.
she assumed that he was a girl and he assumed that she was a guy,
That's
which is
funny.
something you can do, I guess, when you have genderless names, you know?
So do South Koreans have genderless names? Like, is that an aspect of the Korean language?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that you know that Turkish doesn't have grammatical gender, right?
I mean, I've heard that, but I wasn't sure about the names because I hadn't looked that deeply into the
Well,
language yet.
what I'm saying is their words do not have grammatical gender. So
Yeah,
that,
no, their words don't. But I will say with Turkish, they specifically do have names that only women and men would have. Like Ahmed would definitely be a man's name, whereas
well,
Nilüfer would
Julia,
not.
that's not a Turkish name. That's an Arabic name.
No, but they've appropriated it. And what you have to remember,
Yeah, of course. Any borrowed name would have the things that come from the language.
and a lot of Turkish names are gonna be they're gonna have some Arabic influence because I mean, unless a Turkish person is a Christian or a Jew, which there were a lot of them were Muslim. So you do have like variations of
I mean,
Muhammad.
Christians and Jews also have Semitic names that have gender.
Yeah.
So all of those are borrowed names. But
Yeah.
no, what I'm saying is what I think is going on is, of course, there are stereotypically feminine names, the girls usually have. And of course, there are stereotypically, names that you would, most people would assume as a guy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not coded into their grammar.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Like grammatically, you don't have masculine and feminine.
So you remember Eugene from Mr.
Mr.
Sunshine?
Sunshine. Yeah, I remember him. Yes.
Well, the little baby that I held in that photo that I showed you, her name was Eugene too.
Okay.
Um, so the name doesn't imply necessarily whether it's a girl or a boy.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd never looked into Korean, like what names. I hadn't looked into that. So it's just not something I've considered.
Yeah, no, I'm not expecting you to, and I might be wrong about it. I
I
don't know.
don't think so. It sounds like like that's interesting. I'm just saying that's really interesting.
Well, this is my surmise about it. If it turns out that I'm wrong about everything, just forgive me. Because I'm not an expert on Korean. I'm just watching the shows. But that's what I got from it is that, well, yes, there are stereotypically girl names and boy names. There are a lot of names where you don't know. You just don't know. And that's how that happened, that they signed a lease with each other. They knew each other's names, but they hadn't met and did not realize that one of them was a girl and the other was a guy.
Okay, that's really interesting. I don't think that would happen too often, like let's say in America or Europe. So it's an interesting cultural phenomenon that's more pertaining to like South Korean culture than let's say America, correct? Like, could we agree on that at least? Or do you think, I mean, how often?
Occasionally, the Chris thing where Chris could be a guy, Chris could be a girl.
That's true. Yeah. There's a few of them.
Yeah, there's a few. So it could happen, I guess, anywhere. But
that's interesting. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, if we think about it, I'm not trying to make really sweeping generalizations about anything because I don't know. I really don't know about it. It's just something that struck me. And, it struck me about Eugene because I remember, Eugene is a name in Korean and it has a meaning in Korean. And when my friend wanted to name her daughter, and her daughter was born in the US, and she wanted to just name her Eugene. And then friends told her, no, that's a boy's name. You're going to have to call her Eugenia in English.
Oh, wow.
But, her Korean name is Eugene.
That's interesting. So then what happens after that? She finds out he's not a woman and he finds out she's not a man. And they have
they like each other, and he basically likes her as a tenant. and he doesn't want to give her up as a tenant because she's a good source of income. She pays her rent on time. She's not messy. In fact, she helps clean up. She has a lot of good traits. You know, when she's upset, she likes to clean, you know, so she cleans extra. And he just doesn't want to lose her as a tenant. But his mom, you know, he's got a nosy mom who shows up there, and his mom assumes that's his girlfriend. And before you know it, they have to either have her move out or they have to get married.
Oh boy. It's one of those dilemmas, like or they have to pretend they get married, like maybe. I don't
Yeah, but I mean, you can't just pretend, you know, in Korea, you don't just get married, you have to meet each other's families, and the families have to agree, and it's a whole big deal. So they said, okay, we'll have a meeting with your family, we'll have a meeting with my family, we'll get their approval for it, and then we won't actually have a wedding. But then, of course, the families did want them to have a wedding.
So they kind of can't get around it, like, even if interesting.
Right.
I mean, it still happens like in India as well, like in more traditional families, definitely.
Yeah. So then, you know, she wanted to be a writer, actually a drama writer, you know, a Korean drama writer. And she had it, but then she was sexually harassed by somebody at the job, so she quit. And at the wedding, you know, her mother talks to the guy that she's marrying and gets him to promise that he won't stand in the way of her career, you know, and promises that because, you know, he's not really her husband. So, of course, he's not going to get in the way of her career. And he's a very, you know, he's very considerate of her rights as a person. So he's
he's a good husband, like match for her, basically, right?
Well, no, because he's not, at first, he doesn't offer any kind of like affection or, you know, or anything physical contact or anything like that. So it feels kind of fake, but he's very considerate, you know. He's a considerate person.
But maybe for her situation, like let's say she wants to do better, like in her career, he's not going to deter her. So maybe in that sense, like this is an ideal business relationship marriage, maybe, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, they grow to like each other a lot, and so on and so forth. Because after all, it's a Korean romance.
It's funny.
I don't even remember what it was that I was trying to get at. Oh, so I've been picking up on words. That was my point.
Okay.
That I'm just fascinated by the language. Not that I know much about it, of course. I'm not saying that. But as I listen to the words, some words strike me as reminding me of Hebrew words I know, and other words strike me as reminding me of Chinese words that I know.
That's interesting. So, like in your case, do you feel like if you were to like want to study Korean, you could teach it to yourself, or would you feel like you have to take a course? Like, what would be your way of
Well, I mean, I guess the ideal way would be to travel to Korea and live there all the time, and then I could pick it up, right? That would be a good way.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. But let's say somebody doesn't really have the possibility to do that, and they just want to learn a little bit more Korean so they can watch a show and understand it without having to read the subtitles all the time. Do you think being self-taught would be better, or would it be preferable to like take a course on it?
It depends on the person, how much time and money you have, and actually, I think watching the shows is a really great way to learn. Also, I wouldn't say that, oh, so that you don't have to read the subtitles. You should start watching the show so that you start to pick it up and you don't have to read every single subtitle, you know?
I mean,
Even
yeah, I get what you're saying. I feel like I'm kind of getting that way with Turkish. Like I'm beginning to pick up more words, even if I'm not looking at the subtitles now, actually.
yeah,
Like my comprehension has gone up a little bit.
right. And when you're really good, you start to anticipate what they're going to say. That's what happens sometimes is you know that they're
You
going
kind
to
of know, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I think even if you haven't watched many Turkish soap operas and like maybe the Korean dramas, that's kind of easy because they're very dramatic. I feel
yes.
like maybe the Korean dramas, maybe they're not as easy to guess everything that's going to happen next. But I haven't watched as many. I've only seen a couple, so.
Well, I'm not even talking about guessing what the plot is. I'm not talking about guessing the story, but just guessing what the person is going to say next.
Oh, okay.
The words that come out of their
Like the
mouth.
words that they'll use next, like what terminology, what phrase.
Yeah. And also, I've noticed there are differences in pronunciation depending on, where the person comes from and how educated they are.
That's true.
So I find that interesting.
No, that is. No, that's really interesting. One thing I have been finding out though that I thought was interesting. I mean, I don't plan on traveling to Turkey and living there, but if somebody wanted to, it was actually easier during the whole lockdowns to go there because there were fewer restrictions on tourists or people on a visitor's visa than the residents. Like, and you could actually like they were one of the few countries that was open where you could still go places. I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
And guess what? Their numbers didn't even go that much higher. So I thought that was really interesting. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember there was actually a Korean show, the one about business, international business, where they couldn't get something. Some product was being, I think the Americans were embargoing something from Iraq, maybe. I don't know. And you could circumvent the embargo by going through Turkey.
Interesting. I always thought, it's kind of interesting though. They would, I mean, I guess not everything's embargoed, but it'd be interesting. Sometimes if you went to health food stores, you could find like pomegranate juice from abroad, but maybe that's not being embargoed. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't under the embargo, but like you still could find that. I don't know. I guess it depends on what the item is. Embargoes are silly. It just hurts the residents of that country, really.
Yeah, well, eventually it hurts everybody.
This is
Because
true.
the world is small and it's round, and what you throw at other people comes back to you.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's true. But you're right. Like, I guess I didn't want to take you from what you were saying. Like, you're learning a lot about language by watching the show. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would learn more if I actually lived there, but this is fun anyway.
I mean, it's a really neat idea. Like, I love the idea of being able to travel, but for a lot of people, it's just not practical. So I feel like the thing that I love about foreign dramas is that if you wanted to experience some of the culture, that's a way to do it without having to actually get on a plane.
Right. So I'm wondering if we have any people watching us, and how would I know? So
I checked, so I'm watching on my phone.
okay.
I mean, that's what I see right now, but I'll let us know. Like I don't know if it shows up on Zoom the same way. So I've been kind of looking at the chat here. And I haven't seen any comments yet, but I have it on my phone right here where I can see it. Because my phone I have up, so I can do that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, the thing is that when you share that on Facebook, all
Yes.
it shows my books.
I know. I was wondering like why it did that. That's annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could have waited a few minutes to share it. Is that
No,
what-
I don't think you did anything wrong. I think it's just something to do with Zoom sharing that does.
Well, maybe what I can do later after it's edited. It looks like we have another person watching now. This is my
Okay.
thought. Oh, what I can do is I can just do a screen capture and I can change the picture. Maybe I'll do that. Oh, I have a story about boiling hot coffee. Like, do you remember the McDonald's lady and how everybody kind of joked about how she was like, she exaggerated the hot coffee?
Yeah.
And I thought for a long time, because they always said on the news, she must have exaggerated it. Well, I had an experience yesterday that made me rethink that whole thing because everybody always told me that. Like I never really thought anything of it because I was a kid when that story was on the news. And they're like, she's exaggerating. That could not have happened. Well, maybe she wasn't wrong because yesterday they're doing an art show in the park. So they were doing all these food vendors and everybody's like, oh, there's a lot of neat like food trucks and stuff. So I went out to one of the food vendors and it was coffee and they had like some caprese avocado thing that I got. And I just asked for hot coffee, but I thought maybe you should watch what you asked for. I said, I just want some hot coffee, but maybe they thought I really wanted boiling hot coffee because she handed me the coffee. I don't even know how she could touch it. It had like a thing to protect it and it was so hot. I was so afraid I was going to drop it.
Yeah. Yeah, they make it extra hot.
I've never had it this hot. It was really bad.
Yeah, a lot of people just they think it tastes better when it's hot. Even my mother loves it hot. I never served coffee boiling hot. I just didn't. But apparently some people who are aficionados of the coffee actually think it tastes better that way, but it is dangerous.
Yeah, because I was like, oh my gosh, there's this art event, there's like families, there's people, and I have this thing coffee. So like I'm running back to the workroom so I can like not spill my coffee. Like that's how scared I was. It was so hot. I've never had coffee that hot before. It's like, oh my gosh, like you're really hot. And then like I waited 15 minutes. I thought, well, maybe I'll try some of the coffee. No, I had to wait a whole half an hour before I could drink that coffee. It was that hot. I've never had coffee quite that hot. I mean, I'm sure that they do, but that was just a little bit too much for me. I was like, wow.
Yeah, well, I've started making my own. I started making coffee in my room sometimes with one of those, basically electric pots for boiling water, you know, the kind. And that's how people in Israel, when I visited Israel, that's how they made their coffee. They didn't have a coffee maker.
Mm-hmm.
They used instant coffee.
Okay, I have some of that too. That's cool.
Yeah, freeze dried, and they put the water in when it was boiling hot. Just after it finished boiling, and stirred it around and drank it. And I've been doing that, but I cannot, I can't really drink it when it's boiling. I just can't. But other people do, and apparently it tastes the best when they do it that way. So,
Well, that's good. I'm glad that it tastes really good. I just personally, no, not for me.
yeah. What, I remember my mother would come over and I would make coffee in my coffee pot. I mean, my coffee maker, my regular coffee maker.
Mm-hmm.
She would always say, it's not hot. It's not hot. And I'd go, well, I just I poured you some coffee from the.
Yeah, to me that's hot, but maybe I just have a weird sense of what's
But
hot, I guess.
now I understand what she meant, that it wasn't hot, because it seemed like she was complaining or something, but she really meant it because she really wanted it pretty much boiling hot.
Okay, I guess that's the thing. I mean, it was a gourmet coffee stand, so maybe I'm sure they know what they're doing, but I was like, oh my, that is so hot. Although I have to say, I really like the caprese salad. I got the vegan version, and you can make that yourself so easily. It was just interesting to see how they did it. It was kind of cool. It was an avocado. They had different options. Like I got the one with the tomatoes and balsamic vinaigrette, but they had an ahi tuna option. So you could definitely do that yourself. Have you ever had the caprese salad before, Aya?
I don't think so. What is it?
Okay, so you just take an avocado and you scoop out a little bit. Like you just take out the inside and just take out a tiny bit. And then on top, because you like meat, you could put like I don't know, meat or fish, and then some tomato and a little bit of balsamic dressing. And then you just eat the avocado and it's so good. I had never had that before. I really liked it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't now because I've developed a kind of sensitivity to avocado. I used to,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, but when I did love it, I just eat the avocado. I would take a spoon and I would eat it right out of the avocado. That's all I did.
Okay. This is just kind of like a more, I guess it's like a gourmet. It's just like really pretty, like the way it was made. And I really appreciated it. So I want to try.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said it does sound pretty.
It was really pretty, but I just ate it. I didn't have time to take a picture of it because I just wanted to eat it. But I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. But they had like all sorts of neat stuff yesterday. They had like a band, they had a seafood truck, they had like, I mean, I wouldn't order from everything, but it was just kind of cool. It's like it was like a fair almost. It was really neat.
Oh, yeah, we have an ongoing fair. Well, maybe it's ended now, but in my little town, they call it the picnic. And they have people come in, and there's a Ferris wheel and all sorts of rides, and all the local kids come out, and there's country music.
That's cool.
I guess it's because of Memorial Day, do you think?
Yeah, they always do on Memorial Day, but they have like some of the neatest artwork. Like, oh my gosh, these people are selling all sorts of like jewelry, art. Like, it's just really beautiful. Like, I didn't buy anything, but just to like look around all the different vendors, and then they have the food. Like, it's gotten a little bit more exciting. Like in the past, it was just the art, but now they brought in the food trucks, and I think they have like a children's art competition. Actually, they had a lot of different things going on. Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it's gotten really neat. Like before, it was a little bit more just like, oh, it's art. I think it just appealed more to older people. Like it kind of had that vibe to it. But now it feels more like a family event because they had a band, they had all these different food trucks. It was just really cool. Like there was no rides, but it had that fair kind of atmosphere. And I kind of haven't seen that since before the thingy. So that was the first time I had actually been to something like that. And I used to love market night because it was kind of like that once a week. It had like that fair atmosphere kind of thing. So I kind of miss that.
Mm-hmm. So do you think the pandemic is over because everybody's gathering now?
Well, here's the thing. They're saying it's over, but I know people are still getting it. They say, oh, because of the vaccine, people aren't being hospitalized. But I'm wondering, is it just because people's immunity is up because they are out more and they're more exposed to each other? I feel like it's more of an immunity thing, maybe. But then another thing too was that what I never truly believed, like they said the hospitals were at full capacity, but we knew that in this July of 2020, the hospitals were like completely vacant because they told nobody to go to the hospital. So like there was nobody at the local hospital. So maybe some hospitals had a whole bunch of people, but ours didn't. So that was interesting. I don't know. I don't even want to speculate anymore. I'm just tired of it. But yeah, people are still getting COVID, and I know some people are still getting sick. I think it's just not as acute as it once was, and people are getting it, but they're not, like, the symptoms are not quite as severe. That's what it seems to be lately.
Mhm.
But I'm kind of like, to me at this point, I'm over like speculating about it. But what I don't get is all of a sudden, like, it's okay. Like, I don't even want to get into political stuff about it. I'm just kind of over it. I'm just so tired of it, really, to be honest with you.
Okay, I understand.
I'm really tired of it. And like, do you have any thoughts about it that you wanted to share or anything?
No, no, I stayed away from the fair this year just because, you know, I don't know if it's over or not. How would I know? You know?
It probably isn't completely over. Like, I'll tell you this, like, I do go outside and I was kind of apprehensive to be around a lot of people, but I didn't stay for long. Like, I didn't stay for a long, long time. I just got the coffee, I looked around, and then I went back. So even though I do interact with people, I don't like outside of work. I'm not eating out a lot. I'm not going to a lot of social events. So yeah, I'm interacting with people, but I do have some interactions, so I can't really say. The thing is, I never got sick though. I don't know. I never
Yeah.
got sick, not once. Maybe I'm lucky. I don't know. I don't know what to say about all that. But they said everybody got it and I didn't. So, and I know some other people who didn't get it. So that's interesting. But you're not supposed to say that, I guess. Everybody's supposed to say everybody got it. But we know not everybody got it. So I
Oh,
don't know what to tell you.
yeah, I have nothing to say about it. I just stay away from people right now.
It's probably safer, I'm gonna say, like, in general. Like, honestly, also too, I kind of wanted to see what that's about, but I wasn't gonna go back today. Like, some people are going back every day and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, like yesterday they were serving this, and today, like, some people are making a day of it. Like, to me, like, they're out there all day. I don't want to, like, I'm not planning to go to Disneyland or any theme parks or like large venues, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm probably around more people than like some people are, but I feel like I still keep my distance. Like, I do it in a moderate kind of way, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that makes a difference, but at this point, I just guess they've decided it's over. I don't think it's cautious to say it's completely over because we don't know what could happen next. We don't know.
That's true.
So
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign this as
okay.
far as it goes.
Well, I'm looking at the chat right now and it looks like I'm watching. So
Yeah. So this is what I have.
oh, it turned out really nice. I like it.
You know, it's the girl is feeling despondent, and so she's hiding her mouth in her sleeve. That's what
I
it is.
like it. What scene is this from?
Well, it's from The Sound of Magic.
No, but what scene in the series? Like, what is happening exactly in this particular scene?
I'm not sure, but I mean, what happened was there were debt collectors after her, and all sorts of bad things happened. So she felt alone a lot of the time. She was abandoned by her family. But the point was not to tell the story. Just that's my painting for today.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of like the hair. It has like a 1960s kind of like font vibe to it. It kind of looks like curly. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. She has short hair. The interesting thing about it is, I think she has a high forehead.
Oh, so it looks more poofy on top, maybe.
No, I think she's hiding her forehead. So what
Oh,
happens with a lot of these Koreans is many of them are actually very intelligent, very intellectual. They have high foreheads, but when they want to look attractive, they will have really long bangs to cover that up.
okay. Interesting.
Now, when I watched the show, I wasn't sure whether that was her real hair or a wig, but because it was just like it was right up to her eyes, and I would think,
Oh,
um,
I think
you
that's
know,
clip on bangs, probably. Just my guess. I could be wrong, but
well, it all came together really well. So it didn't look like clip-on bangs, but I thought maybe her hair, her wig is just drooping or something.
okay, that's interesting.
But assuming that's her real hair, anyway, it was very low, almost in her eyes.
Wow. Interesting. I hate those bangs though. I know that's a thing, but ugh, like when people have the bangs and it covers their face.
Well, I don't remember if it was Hying or somebody else was discussing why they do this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Hying. She said it was believed in the past that a person with a high forehead, a high brow,
Mm-hmm.
was more intelligent than a person with a low forehead.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Okay. But after a while, people didn't want to be too proud about their forehead. So they wanted to seem like ordinary people, even if they were smart. So they started to cover up their forehead so nobody could tell who has the high one and who doesn't. That's her story.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, the painting turned out nice. I like it.
Thank you. So, yeah.
So are we probably going to end around here since you probably need to get back to some of your other, I guess, lessons that you're going to be teaching during the day?
Well, you mean get back to Bo?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably
Okay.
in just a few minutes. So
Okay.
I thought we could I could show you
Yeah,
the,
I'd like to see.
the progression. So as to remind you, this was 3 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and this was 2 weeks
Last week.
ago.
Yeah. I like that one.
And this is today.
It's fun.
Yeah. Did you want to show me your progress?
Well, like I said, it's a very meticulous thing. So I'm still working on the crown and I'm not completely happy with it. It might take me a while before I'm happy with it. I don't know.
Well, I love the colors. What are you specifically not happy about?
I want the color to like really be refined. So when I do colored pencil, I want it completely filled in. I don't want like the white paper to show through. That's my technique with the colored pencil. That's why it's so vibrant, because I take a long time doing it. Like more than painting actually, because painting will cover, like painting has more coverage of the surface of the canvas. Like even if you just do an alla prima painting, whereas with this, I just really want the color to pop. So I press really hard and I'm layering it. It's not just one pencil. So I do blue and then I outline it with the violet. And then I go back in and shade with the white. And I just keep going in doing that until I kind of get the effect that I want. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it look like her crown. Because there's something about those crowns that they wore. It's kind of like a material, but it kind of looks like it has gathers in it. So I'm trying to replicate like the shading. But here's the conundrum about this. I'm working off a painting and I've seen some like imagery on Magnificent Century of what their crowns look like, those really high crowns that have like basically like a veil hanging off. But I don't have an exact thing that I'm working from. It's kind of just an idea. So I'm just playing around with it right now.
It's very nice. I love the colors. They already look quite vibrant to me.
I mean, maybe I'm done, but also too like the centerpiece. Okay, you probably can't tell it's supposed to be like a jeweled centerpiece. So I wanted metallic colored pencils, but I'll tell you my fun thing. Okay, some of them are good. Other ones cracked in the middle. So like I've been like hunting for ones that, so I kind of want some differentiation on the center jewel piece. Like that is just from a painting. Like it's just an idea from a painting. So I'm trying to replicate something. And I think maybe I'm being a little too picky about it, but I don't even have an exact thing that I'm trying to replicate. But I just have an idea about it. So anyway, that's what I'm working on right now. And then next I'll probably go to the face. And then after that, I'll probably do her jacket. And I want to keep it ottoman looking. So the ottomans have like that mink like color. So I want to do like some sort of mink style to it. That's my thought. my plan. Because to be a high-ranking Ottoman, you always wore mink. They were obsessed with mink for some reason. That was their obsession.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, perhaps you could do a tutorial about how you mix the colors using colored pencils, because not everybody knows. I don't, you know.
I definitely could do that. I feel like, okay, I'm not saying I can't do a tutorial per se. I just feel like I kind of, when I start doing colored pencil, I just have these ideas like I want it to look like this, I wanted to look like that. And I just kind of keep manipulating it. And maybe I'm not the best at explaining it, but I'll tell you what really works for me is I take one color and I put it down. And then I believe in having like white and cream colored pencils where you can go over it and you can do a lot of color variation. You want white and cream colored pencils. And I say Prisma, like just get the Prisma ones. Don't muck around with those cheapy colored pencils. Like I used to do that. I used to be like, why don't I get the quality that I want? And I always knew all along you want the Prismas, and Prismas really aren't that more expensive. I'll tell you why, because like, look, I have like these metallic ones. They seem really cool. Like, oh yeah, the colors, but they crack. Like the lead actually cracks, whereas the Prisma has a good quality lead and you're spending a few more dollars, but I actually think you save money in the long run because the Prisma colored pencil lasts. I have some Prisma colored pencils from the late 90s actually still. Some of my little stubby ones like this one is from 1996. Like I had a few of them.
Oh, wow.
I didn't use it all the time, but it lasts. Like it lasts a really long time. It's a good art quality pencil. So I say invest. Like if you are going to do colored pencil, invest in the good one. Whereas like the cheap ones are just going to crack and you're going to be frustrated and you're wasting more of your money really. And you're not going to get the result you want.
Right. Okay, well, that's really good advice. I do have, you know, colored pencils somewhere around here. I did have, but I never knew what to do with them really.
I think if you got a Prisma set, they're not that expensive. Like you can get one at Walmart. I think it's considered like the student like entry one, but the entry one is still really good. And I think you'll get a better result with that than just like the Crayolas. But that's just my opinion. Like I like how they layer and I just like the vibrancy of a Prisma. Or even if you do Faber Castile, like they're a little bit higher quality. I just recommend going a little bit higher as opposed to like the cheapo, because I used to do that and I got really like, I just didn't like the results I got, you know?
Yeah, sometimes it's just worth it to pay for what works, you know.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. I think if you really just want to do art, like acrylic paint, it lasts a long time. And if you just want to paint, like it's gonna last longer. Because even with Prisma, one thing that does, like I know I probably could spray some of the drawings, but I still am like kind of annoyed. Like, well, actually, this one from 2013 is still pretty vibrant, but I feel like it still kind of loses its color much more quickly than like let's say an acrylic painting I have from 2006, which hasn't faded at all, you know?
Yeah, right. I do paint in acrylics when I want it to be a lasting thing, but right now I'm just playing around with watercolor just to, you know, to sketch something, not thinking that I'm going to paint it and put it on the wall or anything
No,
like
that I understand, but I almost think even watercolor probably like I can't bank on it, but I will tell you this. I have some watercolor left in my portfolio and it seems like it's still more vibrant than some of the colored pencils that were left in a binder, which actually almost seem to fade faster than than the water paint.
Yeah, so that's good.
But yeah, it's good to know. That's the thing though. I love colored pencil, but I think you need to scan it so you always have your original. I don't think it's going to last forever. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. Not only scan it, but maybe take a really good photo of it.
Yeah, that too. Photograph, scan, whatever medium. I think you just want to have a digital. And I kind of want to go over to just painting more. But the thing I love about colored pencils is that I get like a certain kind of precision with it that I feel like I can never get with paint, if that makes any sense. And I kind of get into that. Like I get a little obsessed with certain things. I'm very obsessed with my colored pencil precision.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite way. I'm totally incapable of being precise. So I try to see what I can create, um, you know, in my sloppy, messy way and see if it still you can tell what it is. You know, that's kind of the game that I'm playing.
No, but I think it works. I mean, you do more of like alla prima type painting. I think it works. But I will tell you this, like I know people get kind of OCD about certain things. Like I think video editing is one thing. And I've never been like really OCD about video editing. I just don't like, I just can't do it. Like I just can't see it. But some people are just very like they have to film it again, or there's a lawnmower outside, or they apologize to the audience if a lawnmower turns on. And I'm just like, okay, like I don't get that. Like, do you
Mhm.
understand that way of thinking more than I do, probably?
I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely not OCD with video editing. I'm not, and obviously, I'm not one of those that has a million views because she put everything, you know, just right in the video. Um, I might be a little bit more in that direction, just a tiny bit more than you, in the sense that if there's a background noise that's really annoying, then I will try to get rid of it somehow, you
Yeah,
know.
no, I think you are a little bit better with that. I think I don't have, I should, but here's the thing I didn't get. Like, I saw some videos recently. They're really beautiful, very well edited, and these people didn't even have that many subscribers. And it almost seemed like this lady had studied film editing to some, and I was like, I was surprised she didn't have more viewers. Like, it was just really beautiful. I was like, wow, she was very precise in her editing. It was kind of amazing to
Okay.
me.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything it has a place and contributes. I'm not saying if somebody's perfect in video editing, they are necessarily going to have a million views. That's not what I'm
No, but
saying.
I would think this person would. I would think that they'd have more views. That was just my take on it. I was kind of surprised that they didn't, honestly.
Well, I guess it depends also on the subject matter and whether they have a built-in audience for some reason. And
Yeah, I guess that's a good point too. So, but anyway, that's kind of my take on the whole art thing. I did have a few classes, but like I said, I kind of just go with my own intuition. I don't really have a specific technique that I feel like people can, like that one art lady, like she seems to have, like she's taught art, so she might have specific techniques that she teaches her audience. I don't know, does she have like certain techniques that she teaches everybody?
are you talking about a Hying or a
Yeah,
different?
Hyene, yes.
Oh, well, she will teach people Chinese calligraphy, and at the same time, she will also teach them how to paint very simply Chinese style paintings of bamboo and things like that. But I mean, she has so many things she teaches. She teaches math, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, so she can teach Chinese, she can teach math, she can teach. Sometimes she just reads to people from a book. That's all. And her voice is so calming, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, she has a, I'm surprised by the large variety of videos that she had. Just I started viewing her a little bit more recently.
Yeah, she makes yogurt, she makes lemon curd, she grows fruit in her backyard, and then she makes things. She can speak French as well as Mandarin and English, you know, and
Wow.
the list goes on.
Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah. But I watch other people too, you know, I don't just watch her all the time.
I don't know. I've just been kind of looking at her lately. I do watch a few other people. Actually, who did I start watching? Um, Barry Espanol Tips. Very interesting lady. She speaks Spanish, English, and now she's learning Turkish. And she had a federal job in Mexico, and people told her, her relatives said, because when you have a job with the federal government in Mexico, you have really good benefits and like you're set for life, you're on a career track. But she wanted to travel the world. And when she was young, she asked her aunt, like, where did you go that you liked? And her aunt told her Turkey. So then she became very interested in wanting to go to Turkey. So she sold her house in Mexico that she owned outright so she could move to Turkey. And everybody in Mexico said, you're crazy. You have such a good job and you're going to go to Turkey to become a teacher and start all over again. And how do you know this is going to work? But she didn't care. Like she went to Turkey and she ended up getting married and she lived in a smaller town. And now she lives in Istanbul. And I really like her content. It's
Oh,
just really
wow.
interesting. She's an interesting lady, like just because they go to different parts of Turkey, like they're trying to go to some places that are not as popular, and then they go to places in Istanbul, and it's just like re-verified what I've heard about how Turkish culture is very interesting and very welcoming of tourists. And it seems like during the whole lockdown, much more open than other countries were, but yet their numbers didn't escalate more than the other countries that were closed. So I thought that was interesting. That was really
Oh, yeah.
interesting, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I might like to see that. Yeah.
She's
Okay.
her name is Barry anyway.
Berry, like Berry or
Berry, and then her channel's Barry Espanol to Istanbul Espanol. She speaks Spanish. Barry Istanbul tips.
okay. Sounds good. So I guess I will be a guest on your show tonight. Is that right?
Yes, because we're going to talk about a very interesting drink. If people want to drink it, I don't know. I guess people can decide that for themselves tonight.
Okay, well, I will link to that later on today when this finally renders.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'll see you later.
I'll see you in a bit. Bye.